Hello and welcome to Praying on Purpose. As we have seen, our rabbis teach us that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are each credited with inspiring us to recite the three tefillos that we recite each and every day. Based on psukim cited by the Gemara that we had seen several months ago, Avinu introduces us to tefillah shachris. As the Torah reports, he got up in the morning and he davened. Yitzchak Avinu, as we read in Parshas Chayesara, goes out lasuach de lifnos orev, to converse, to have, so to speak, a conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the afternoon as the sun was beginning to set. And so therefore, Chazal tell us that this serves as an inspiration for Tfilas Mincha. As we read yesterday in Parshas Vayetze, Vayifka b'makom kivo hashamesh, that Yaakov Avinu introduces the concept of Tfilas Maariv as he encounters, so to speak, God in this place. And Chazal tell us, Ein pigia ela tefillah, that it refers to this somewhat strange, cryptic encounter. This is actually a reference to tefillah. Now, in the past, we've mentioned the fact that it is possible to understand this on a most simple level. And that is, listen, there are three tefillos that we recite every day. Chazal would like to be able to trace each of these tefillos back to our earliest roots. And so therefore, it works out very nicely. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Shachos, Mincha, Maariv. And they're sort of presented very neatly in this almost chronological order. And the truth of the matter is that works. There's no complaints whatsoever with such a simple presentation. But as we've already started to explore over the past couple of months when we talked about Shachris and Mincha, that the concept that Avraham Avinu daven Shachris is not merely that Avram davened in the morning to suggest that perhaps that was the only time he davened, but Avraham Avinu lived a life. His life reflected the entire ethos, the concepts that inspire Tfilah Shachris. Because, as the pasuk says, "Lahagid baboker chasdecha," the morning in which we are naturally able to see, we are able to reflect upon the goodness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has provided us with, first and foremost, in a new day, and we are able, perhaps more naturally, to see the optimism in every day. We can see the potential. There's a tremendous feeling of chesed. We feel enveloped in the morning with endless possibilities, with the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so therefore, l'hagid baboker chasdecha, the chesed, which so typifies the life of Avram Avinu, is expressed through the tefillah that Avram introduces baboker in the morning. But the pasuk concludes ve'emunascha baleilos, that in the nighttime, it's not as natural, it's not as easy to go ahead and to reflect upon the chesed, because after all, nighttime is a time of darkness. It's a time of uncertainty. It's a time when many, many things are unclear. Some are completely obscured and blocked. There are times that we could be standing several feet away from another individual or a brick wall, and we cannot see what's right in front of us. It's a time of real uncertainty, and unfortunately, it could be much more difficult in the nighttime to reflect with a sense of optimism. And so, therefore, what happens at night? At night, we do not necessarily tap as naturally into the reservoir of chesed, but rather we are drawing from our emunah. And so therefore, many have pointed out that it shouldn't be lost on us that Yaakov Avinu is the one who introduces Maariv, because Yaakov lived a life of emunah. Yaakov, more than Avram, his grandfather, and more than Yitzchak, his father, was, over the course of many, many years of his life, found himself in he was running. He unfortunately had to seek refuge from his own brother. Was, after all, found himself, as we read yesterday in Parshas Vayetze, in a very complicated situation, to say the least, involving the marriage of land, trying to build a family with all the strife that the Torah records, some explicitly and some implicitly. And of course, as we are going to proceed in next week's Parsha, Parshas Vayishlach Vayeshev, through the end of Sefer Bereshis, we see how Yaakov Avinu had tremendous sorrows over the course of his life, with his family, with his children, being separated from Yosef for 22 years, not knowing if he was alive, losing his wife Rachel tragically and suddenly, after story of all of the pain and suffering that Yaakov Avinu had to endure. And what does that Yaakov do as a response to that? So Chazal tell us he institutes Tfilas Maariv. Yaakov Avinu has the capacity to go ahead and to try to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from a place of emunah. The Yaakov Avinu tries, even in the darkness of night, to find a place to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, we cannot understand this in overly simplistic terms. As I said already, that Avram only davened in the morning, and Yaakov only davened at night, and Yitzchak only afternoon. Rather, that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov serving sort of as inspiration of paradigms of prayer, inspire us to realize that we have in each and every day, and at each and every phase and stage in our life, personally, and at every stage and phase of our national history, the capacity to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, as Rav Asher Weiss points out in his analysis of this topic in general, he points out that the gullus in which we find ourselves in right now, we have been in exile as a people for 2,000 years. That gullus is nimshal laila. It is compared to nighttime. But we know that gullus is a time in which we have the capacity to really tap inside of ourselves as individuals, as a people, and to explore the possibilities of emunah, that we have the ability to go ahead and to develop a real sense of emunah, even if not especially in moments of darkness. And so therefore we can and we should really think about Shachus Mincha Maariv through these different prisms, the ability to go ahead and to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from a place of clarity, which is represented by Tefillah Shacharis, from ending with the darkness of night, which is represented by Tefillas Maariv. But Rav Kook, in his commentary on Maseches Brachos, he points out something very, very interesting. That is that it's true that the way we speak about Shachris Mincha Maariv, we speak about them in that sequence, that order, Shachris Mincha Maariv. But he points out that Maariv is technically the first tefillah of every day, because when you think about it, the day begins at night. That's the way it works. The Yom is Holech Achar Halayla. In Jewish law, when the sun sets each and every night, that is the beginning of the coming day. Tefillah of every day is not Shachris, it's Maariv. Now, how do we understand that in light of what we just said? So he points out that Emunah is really the foundation. Emunah, the darkness of night, is where we find, hopefully, the strength within inside of ourselves to be able to draw from that in the day that follows. Because during the day, things are not always so clear. And if we are able to establish a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu at night, if we are able to learn to communicate with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even when we don't see him, so to speak, even when that vision, even when that access seems somewhat blocked and obstructed and clouded, we are still able to connect with him, so we can draw from that. Now, I once saw a very, very beautiful pshat. There's a pasuk that we're, hopefully many of us are familiar with. We say every day in Volatzion towards the end, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem V'Hoya Hashem Yiftacho, which means, blessed is the Gever, the person, Asher Yiftach B'Hashem, who has bitachon Hashem, V'Hoya Hashem Yiftacho, and Hashem is going to be the source of his bitachon. So it would seem to be as if the pasuk is just completely repeating itself. What is the difference between the first half of the pasuk? Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem. Another way is promoting bitachon, and then it says V'Hoya Hashem Yiftacho, and Hashem will be the source of your bitachon. What does that mean? Just say it once. What do you have to say it twice? So a beautiful pshat that I once saw is Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem. A person can be very blessed and very fortunate if he could learn to have bitachon on Hashem at times in life when things are going well, when things are smooth and easy, if there is such a thing, at moments in which there is clarity, at moments in which a person is really feeling the grace of Hashem. Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem at moments like that. And if he does, V'Hoya Hashem Yiftachi, a source of bitachon when? At moments of darkness, when I need him. What happens often in life is exactly the opposite. We go through life thinking that everything is just coming to us and things are smooth and things are easy and I have nothing to worry about, nothing to be concerned about. And then unfortunately we experience turbulence. All of a sudden we encounter trouble in the road and we experience difficult times, sorrows in life, and we don't really know what to do with ourselves. We don't really know how to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from such a place. And so they're looking for an assistance. And we start asking about bitachon. What is bitachon? How do I develop bitachon? Who can teach me how to become bitachon? But unfortunately, when you're in such a place, it can be difficult sometimes to encounter or to discover HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the tzara itself. Not to suggest that it's impossible, to be difficult for some. Another strategy is to develop that sense of bitachon with HaKadosh Baruch Hu when things are going well. If I can go ahead and I can sort of build up a reservoir of bitachon, of amun inside of myself when things are going well. So then, when I encounter a very, very difficult and challenging bump along the road, v'hoya Hashem iftacho, now suddenly I am able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from that place of bitachon, because we are not strangers in that way. I have already prepared myself for this. On several occasions when I've had the unfortunate opportunity, but really a privilege, to be with people in moments of sudden grief, I've reflected, at least when it's true, that I really thought that they had been preparing their entire lives this very moment. Because seeing these individuals over the course of many, many years beforehand, having really developed in times of goodness, when things were going well, a real sense of bitachon. And when one can do that, when a person can become a true Baal bitachon in times of daytime, in times of light, at moments of chesed, so then they can more naturally draw from that in the leilos. Then the emunascha ba'leilos comes more naturally. So it could be that's what the pasuk means. Baruch hagever asher yiftach b'Hashem v'haya Hashem yiftacho. Yaakov Avinu lived his entire life as an individual who was trying to develop a strong connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to develop over time. He did not wait until the going got tough to go ahead and begin to talk with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so therefore, the ve'emunascha ba'leilos, the capacity to introduce within his own life and to inspire many, many generations of the power of tefillas Maariv is to remind ourselves that in momentness we can, and Baruch Hu as well. It is possible to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, in the nighttime as well, not only during the day. May we all be zocheh as we go through the course of our life and daven shachris and mincha Maariv to understand and appreciate that even inspire the way that we can relate and reflect upon all the experiences in life at each and every point in time, at every station and every moment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'haya Hashem iftacho, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu can continue to be the source of our bitachon.